What happened to the MCU? No, that's not rhetorical. What actually happened?
Since 2008, Marvel has dominated the film scene with their cinematic universe. A great cast of characters whose stories we followed for an entire decade, watching as they matured, went through struggle, came together and broke apart, all culminating in the final stand of our heroes, fighting to save the entire universe from the will of a madman.
And then Phase 4 happened.
That's not to say that the MCU was perfect before Phase 4 began, with a new character's origin film being squeezed between the two concluding chapters of this arc. Jokes and tones which were either awkward or became downright character assassination.
The best way I could describe what happened is that it's like when you have this high school friend.
You go through stuff together, grow and change along the way and become more prepared for the world ahead. There were some warning signs that not everything was alright, but you brush those off because you don't want to risk falling out. You lose touch after high school, as friends often do, but one day you decide to get in contact and see how they are. To your shock, you find that everything has gone wrong. They become a chronic alcoholic and drug abuser, staying at their minimum wage job they hate, in a relationship with a person that obviously doesn't care about or respect them, and only uses them for their own reasons. But with the help of some old friends and some more positive influences, maybe they can get back to being their best selves.
And fortunately, the MCU is starting to do so.
Netflix and Marvel ended their television deal back in 2019, cancelling their most popular shows, which showcased more of a grounded perspective of this space trekking franchise, and Iron Fist. There are rumblings that some of these shows will be returning on Disney+.
But that may prove to be a risk, given how well this show ended. Before we go any further, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a new video.
Daredevil was the show that started it all, with its compelling story about a man caught between his faith and his nature, mirrored in a villain whose outward desire to regenerate his home hides a more aggressive, power-hungry compulsion. With the first season serving as a television gold standard, and season 2 starting well but being bogged down and setting up a different show entirely, season 3 returns to their gold standard.
But how does it do that? By being a great story, first and foremost.
The season is pivoted around Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox's loss of faith following the events of the Defenders. In one fell swoop, this man has lost the woman he loved and came to the closest he has to death. He compares his plight to that of Job, stating that after all the times he sacrificed and bled and suffered, he's done, becoming depressed, disassociating from his identity as Matt Murdock, and becoming borderline suicidal, all culminating in his abandonment of his morality and making the decision to kill Fisk. Meanwhile, Fisk is gaining in power and influence, going into witness protection and manipulating FBI agent Poindexter, reuniting with his love and planning marriage, gaining more power as a crime lord. In short, as the season goes on, Fisk gains more while Matt loses more,
with Matt's loss of identity being reflected in Poindexter.
An expert marksman and able to turn any object into a projectile, Poindexter is given Daredevil's costume by Fisk to frame him and make him lose his reputation as a hero, and so Poindexter becomes a reflection of what Daredevil could become if the road Matt is on is left unchecked. A dark force of murder and rage, killing whoever he wants, without any sense of morality, also without any sense of direction such as religion, losing touch with reality, and ultimately becoming manipulated to the whims of people like Fisk.
This loss of the protagonist is reflected in the cinematography.
It strips away some of the bold choices of colour in the cinematography to be replaced by a more conventional lighting setup, symbolising the black and white clear lines of morality that have been lost. And that doesn't take away from the frankly gorgeous shots and setups, which still ooze style. How much style?
Well, let's go dancing with the devil by the pale moonlight to find out.
The scene we're looking at today is the final fight of the series, between our three characters of interest, following Poindexter's revelation of Fisk's manipulation of him. He's been taken off his lead and makes to kill the Kingpin on his wedding day, while Daredevil finally faces off against Fisk, moving to end this once and for all. The fight begins with Daredevil and Fisk clashing, with Wilson sending Matt crashing through a wall. The dichotomy of Fisk is showcased here. He styles himself as an intelligent, passionate, strategic force, but when he gets physical, that is all stripped away, as he devolves into mindless force. No mind or strategy put into his attack, just brute force. a dichotomy juxtaposed against Matt, who delivers a blow to the jaw and uppercuts the Kingpin, not before delivering a left hook, and man, Matt must have been eating his Wheaties to send a big guy like Fist down the stairs like that. Right at this moment, Dex enters the fray and goes after Vanessa, causing Matt to stop fighting Fisk and instead defend the relatively innocent Vanessa, right after we get this sound from Charlie Cox. There are certain jokes I could make, but in the interest of taste, I will refrain, and instead invite you to submit your own in the comments below. Fisk moves in to attack Dex, and honestly, I always like these kinds of moments.
When the protagonist and antagonist put their differences aside to fight towards a common cause, it really adds just this extra layer to their entire dynamic.
Fisk just bodies Dex. Dex is more of a ranged attacker, always keeping his distance, not really a fighter, so he can't even be strategic in his defense like Matt, and as a result gets ragdolled. Speaking of the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, he goes in with a flying sidekick before dodging a wide sweep from Fisk, on which was telegraphed like all hell, again highlighting his lack of strategy and form. Matt jabs before again being overpowered and being sent straight through a table. We get another character moment as Dex causes the chandelier above Kingpin and Daredevil to fall, and Matt kicks Fisk out of the way. The major dilemma of the season has been whether or not Matt will kill Fisk. If his intention was to indeed have Fisk die, he would be able to just let Dex do the work for him right here. But his instinct to save Fisk demonstrates that he really has chosen not to, subconsciously. Dex goes on to continue throwing glass shards at Fisk, while Matt arms himself using a couple of pieces of the chandelier as a screamer sticks, using the sticks to block and deflect Dex's projectiles. I like that small hesitation, as this is probably one of the first times someone has overcome his abilities. Matt follows up with a flying kick, and it is again made clear that Dex is not a fighter. If we are to draw on that dark side, negative reflection angle, Dex is also someone who, unlike Mac, does not face his problems head on. He keeps at a distance, in the shadows, hiding or trying to keep a wall of anger up, whereas Matt is more proactive and faces up to his mistakes and his problems,
when he's not dodging his responsibilities as a lawyer to play vigilante all night long.
Dex briefly gets the upper hand on Matt, enough to resume throwing shards at Fisk.
So, again, not facing the Kingpin or his anger issues or his issues surrounding trust head on.
But Matt returns with a flip kick before delivering a body blow and an uppercut. A 1-2 roundhouse combo sends the would-be Devil of Hell's Kitchen flying, with Dex's efforts culminating in a final attempt to attack Vanessa, but Fisk ends it all with a back-breaking attack. All that's left is for Matt and Fisk to face off. This is it, the final round, as Matt goes off, releasing the rage and anger that has built up towards the Kingpin in a stream of blows, spraying blood all over the show, including the symbol of Fisk's trauma and redemptive hopes, all culminating in that final, furious yell! The catharsis of this final stamp of denial, this declaration of victory, of overcoming the demons and finally beating Fisk after so much. This defiance of every piece of suffering he has endured, and emerging with his morality intact.
This is such a powerful, memorable scene. But I just can't help but make fun of it. When you rewatch the horror film that scared you as a 5-year-old.
I beat you!
When you get past the video game boss that's been impossible for months.
I beat you!
When you load the wrong subtitles, but it still works.
You know how much I sacrificed? I beat you!
When? Just now? No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Didn't. You didn't.
I'm telling you I did.
You did not.
I beat you!
Tis but a scratch.
I beat you!
What do you want, a fucking medal?
Don't come in here acting like jumped up like some little gym bunny. Now do me a favour, that's his job, you off.
With both Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio coming back to play their characters in different projects, plus there are rumours circulating about the Daredevil will see a soft reboot of sorts on Disney+, plus Daredevil now being confirmed to appear in She-Hulk coming soon, it may become entirely possible that the ending here becomes moot, which is entirely possible given how the Kingpin was portrayed in Hawkeye last year, which is honestly really a shame.
Daredevil was a show that came in at just the right time and hit just the right note. It's not always been perfect, but when it hits, it balances complex ideas of faith, morality, nurture versus nature, abuse, abandonment, power of fear, and consequence, all through a blind lawyer that wears a red jumpsuit with horns at night.
Funny how that works out, eh?
With the current state of Marvel, it's unlikely we'll see something like this in the near future.
So I say let's pull up a chair, drink some drinks, and share in the collective experience of this great show one more time before it all gets fucked up. Thank you for watching this week's video, and in the comments let me know what your take is on all of this. What is your favourite season of Daredevil? What do you think about where Marvel is going? What do you think Daredevil will look like when it eventually comes back? If it eventually comes back. And what are your hopes in the future for Marvel overall? Or maybe you're like me and are just really just kind of done with the MCU, to be honest. I've gotta be honest about that. Since Endgame, it's just not been grabbing me, personally. I think that's a feeling a lot of people have shared, especially with how they've been at the moment. Yeah, I'm just kind of done with it. But I'm getting off topic. But until then, thank you all for watching, and until next time, everyone, peace be with you.